The spaceport was alive with noise. Ships of all shapes and sizes landed and took off, their engines roaring. Aliens of many kinds moved in every direction. Some bargained loudly, some sneaked around, and some simply watched. In the middle of it all walked Lyra, a young alien princess with violet skin and bright, curious eyes. She loved excitement. Life on her homeworld was too strict, too planned. She wanted fun, chaos, and the thrill of the unexpected. Lyra's small entourage followed her closely, but she often wandered just a step ahead. Today, she was wearing a casual jacket over her ceremonial clothes, trying to look careless, but her presence demanded attention anyway. Merchants, smugglers, and soldiers all turned to glance at her as she passed. Among the crowd, a human sat quietly on a crate. His name was Cade, a mercenary who had seen too many fights to be surprised by much. He wore simple armor and kept his weapons close. Humans were rare in this sector, and many aliens whispered rumors about them. Some said humans were reckless, others said they were fearless. Cade did not care about rumors. He observed, learned, and waited. Lyra noticed him almost immediately. Something about his calmness intrigued her. He did not fawn or bow. He did not try to sell her anything or follow her like the others. Instead, he simply watched, his expression unreadable. Lyra smiled to herself. Humans were supposed to be bold, unpredictable. She wanted to test him. She walked straight toward him. "Human," she said, her voice light, teasing. "I have a challenge for you." Cade looked up slowly, measuring her tone. "Challenge?" he asked, his voice steady. He did not sound impressed, but he did not sound afraid either. Lyra laughed softly. "Yes, I want you to protect me and for fun. No reason, no danger to you at first. Just protect me. Can you do that?" Around them, nearby aliens paused to watch. Some laughed, others shook their heads. "The human will refuse," one said. "Who would risk themselves for a dare?" Cade studied her. He could see no threat. In her words, no hidden danger. But humans had a code. When someone asked for help, even for fun, a human considered it seriously. He nodded. "I will protect you," he said. Lyra blinked. She expected hesitation, or at least a smirk. Instead, his words were firm. "For fun," she repeated, teasing. "Not for serious. Can you handle that?" Cade's eyes were steady. "I handle it seriously," he said. His calm certainty made the nearby aliens laugh quietly. They thought he was foolish. Lyra's curiosity grew. She had never met a human like him. Most humans she had seen in holovids were reckless, loud, or cunning in ways that were obvious. Cade was none of those. He was silent, sharp, and committed. She almost wanted to test him further. "Very well," she said, smiling wider. "You will start immediately. We leave now. Follow me, human." Cade stood up and followed her. He moved quietly, scanning the spaceport for any threats. Lyra noticed. She grinned. This was better than she imagined. The dare was fun, but the way he treated it as real made it exciting. They walked through crowded corridors and landing bays. Lyra occasionally darted toward stalls, teasing Cade to keep up. Sometimes she pretended to trip or wander into restricted areas. Each time, Cade was close behind, ready to act if anything happened. "Why are you so serious?" Lyra asked as they moved past a busy cargo area. Cade glanced at her. "Because protecting someone is serious," he said simply. Lyra laughed, the sound bright and musical. "But it's just a game." "Humans play games differently," he said without breaking stride. She studied him. There was no arrogance, no fear, no hesitation, only calm focus. She felt a thrill run through her. This dare, she realized, was not going to be boring. Suddenly, a group of rough-looking aliens blocked their path. They looked like bounty hunters. Their leader stepped forward, eyes narrowing at Lyra. "Princess," he said, "you have a bounty. Come with us." Lyra froze for a moment, her playful smile faltering. She had heard rumors about bounty hunters in this sector, but had never faced one directly. The group advanced, weapons drawn. Cade moved first. Without hesitation, he stepped between Lyra and the hunters. His stance was firm, his hand on his weapon. "Back off," he said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable warning. The hunters laughed. "And what are you going to do, human? Fight us all?" Cade did not reply. He simply drew his blaster and fired a warning shot near their feet. Sparks flew, and the hunters jumped back, surprised. Cade's aim was precise. The human's reputation for boldness was true, and Lyra could see it clearly now. She felt a mix of relief and amazement. This human, he was willing to risk himself, even for her playful dare. She had not expected anyone to take it seriously. Yet here he was, ready to fight. The hunters regrouped, muttering among themselves. Cade did not move from his position. Lyra realized she had underestimated him, and perhaps underestimated humans in general. As the tension eased, she whispered almost to herself, "This might be fun after all." Cade glanced at her. "I warned you," he said. "I don't do games halfway." Lyra smiled, feeling excitement she had never known. The dare was only beginning. She could not predict what would happen next. But one thing was clear. This human would protect her, and he would do it with everything he had. As they walked away from the tense crowd, Lyra's laughter echoed through the spaceport. Cade stayed close, eyes scanning, ready for anything. Simple dare had turned into an adventure, and neither of them knew just how dangerous or thrilling it was about to get. The sun of the outer rim planet was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the twisting streets of Zephyra City. Cade led Lyra through narrow alleys, keeping his eyes open for any sign of trouble. The bounty hunters had not forgotten them. Cade knew they would follow. Humans had a habit of planning 2 steps ahead, and Cade's mind was already racing, thinking of escape routes and safe zones. Lyra, for her part, was not afraid. Or at least she tried not to show it. The dare she had given Cade for fun now felt very real. She watched him move, noting every detail, how he held his weapons, how he scanned the crowd, how he predicted danger before it even arrived. "Are you always this serious?" she asked, trying to lighten the mood. Cade did not turn to her. "I take my promises seriously," he said, "even if the promise is for fun." Lyra smirked. "You are strange, human strange." She giggled, then paused. She realized it was not strange. It was impressive. Humans were different, brave in ways that her kind rarely was. As they rounded a corner, a gang of alien thugs appeared. Their leader, a large, spiked-armored alien named Renak, grinned wickedly. "Well, well, if it isn't the princess," he said, "and your little human guard. Let's see how brave he really is." Lyra's eyes widened. This was more serious than she had expected. Cade stepped forward, blocking her path. "Step back," he warned, voice calm but hard. Renak laughed and lunged forward, swinging a heavy weapon. Cade moved fast, sidestepping and using Renak's momentum against him. The weapon slammed into the ground with a loud crack, scattering sparks. The other thugs hesitated for a moment, surprised at the human's speed and precision. Lyra gasped, her playful dare suddenly feeling heavy. "He's really fast," she whispered to herself. The fight continued. Cade did not attack recklessly. Every move was calculated. He disarmed one thug, kicked another into a wall, and used the environment, pipes, crates, and even broken machinery, to his advantage. It was not just strength that impressed Lyra, it was cleverness. He was thinking, predicting, controlling the battle like a chess master. The thugs, frustrated and panicked, tried to surround him. Cade grabbed Lyra's hand. "Stay close. Follow my lead," he said. She nodded, suddenly realizing this was not a game. Cade led her through the twisting alleyways, ducking behind walls and jumping over obstacles. The thugs struggled to keep up. Lyra laughed nervously, exhilarated by the chase but also scared. Humans, she realized, were fearless. Not because they did not feel danger, but because they faced it anyway. At one point, a thug threw a stun grenade. Cade grabbed it mid-air, smashed it against a wall, and used the flash to blind the others. Lyra's eyes watered, but she could not help smiling. This was thrilling. Finally, they reached an abandoned warehouse. Cade pushed a heavy metal door closed, locking it. The sounds of shouting and footsteps faded outside. Lyra slumped against the wall, catching her breath. You are amazing," she said, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. Cade wiped sweat from his forehead. "You said it was for fun," he said simply. "I treat all my promises the same way." Lyra stared at him. She had always thought humans were reckless. Some were, but this human, he was different. Brave, clever, and stubbornly loyal. She had only asked for protection as a joke, and he had risked his life without hesitation. Hours passed as they rested. Lyra asked him questions about Earth, about humans, and about why he was willing to risk himself for someone he barely knew. Cade spoke quietly, honestly. "We protect what we promise. Doesn't matter if it's for fun or serious. If you ask me to do something, I do it fully." Lyra thought about that. On her planet, promises were often words with little meaning. Humans, she realized, acted differently. Words were only the beginning. Actions defined them. Suddenly, movement outside caught their attention. Shadows flickered across the broken windows. The bounty hunters were still searching. Cade checked his weapons and nodded. "Looks like our test isn't over yet," he said. Lyra felt a thrill. This was no longer a playful dare, it was real danger. And yet, she trusted him. For the first time, she relied on someone else to keep her safe. The hunters broke into the warehouse, but Cade was ready. He set traps with pipes and debris, leading the attackers into narrow spaces where their numbers counted for little. Lyra followed his instructions perfectly, ducking and moving as he had shown her. Together, they became a surprising team. One hunter, more reckless than the others, charged at Lyra. Cade reacted instantly, grabbing a metal rod and knocking the hunter away. Lyra gasped but did not panic. She realized she could rely on him, not just because he was strong, but because he never hesitated when she was in danger. After a tense struggle, the hunters retreated, realizing they were outsmarted. Cade and Lyra stayed quiet, listening for any sign of pursuit. When they were sure the danger had passed, Lyra let out a long breath. You really are fearless," she said, shaking her head. "I asked for a game, and you turned it into a fight for our lives." Cade shrugged, almost casually. "I don't separate games and promises," he said. "If I say I'll protect you, I do it, no matter what." Lyra looked at him, her eyes wide with a mix of amazement and admiration. The dare she had given him had changed. It was no longer just a playful challenge. It had become something bigger, a real test of courage, skill, and trust. She smiled. "I think I like this human style of fun," she whispered. Cade did not respond. He was already scanning the warehouse again, checking exits and listening for any sign of danger. Lyra realized that with him, nothing was simple. Every moment was a lesson in courage and cleverness. As night fell over Zephyra City, the two of them left the warehouse quietly, moving through shadows and hidden paths. Lyra felt alive in a way she never had before. The dare had started as a joke, but now, with Cade by her side, it was turning into an adventure she would never forget. And somewhere deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. The moon of Tyrus 9 glowed pale and cold under the twin suns. Its surface was rocky, cracked, and almost empty, except for a few scattered outposts. Cade led Lyra cautiously across the barren landscape. He had learned quickly the bounty hunters were clever, and they would set traps to catch them. Lyra felt a shiver of excitement. The dare had become dangerous, but that danger thrilled her. She was beginning to understand the difference between her world and humans. Most aliens avoided danger, but humans like Cade faced it head-on, thinking and moving faster than anyone expected. Suddenly, Cade stopped. He raised a hand, signaling Lyra to stay behind a boulder. Ahead, a faint shimmer in the dust marked the first trap. A tripwire stretched across the narrow path, attached to a series of explosives hidden in the rocks. Lyra gasped. "They set this up for us?" Cade nodded, his eyes scanning the terrain. "Yes, they expect us to run blindly. They don't expect humans to see it first." He crouched low and began dismantling the trap with precise, steady movements. Lyra watched closely, learning without thinking. She admired how calm he remained. His every move was purposeful, controlled, and clever. A human might seem fragile, but Cade showed her that strength was not just in muscle, it was in the mind. They moved forward slowly. More traps appeared. Pressure plates, hidden lasers, camouflage drones. Each time, Cade spotted them first, neutralized them, and guided Lyra safely past. She realized that what she had thought was a playful dare had become a real test of survival. After a tense half-hour, they reached a narrow canyon. Cade stopped again. The hunters were waiting at the other end. Their weapons glinted under the dim light, and a sense of danger thickened the air. Lyra swallowed hard. "There's too many of them," she whispered. Cade shook his head. "Numbers don't matter if you control the battlefield," he said. "Watch and follow." He stepped into the open, drawing the hunters' attention immediately. They aimed, ready to fire. Cade did not panic. Instead, he moved strategically, using rocks and shadows to break their line of sight. Then, with careful timing, he triggered. A small rock slide. Dust and debris fell on the hunters, forcing them to scatter. Lyra's eyes widened. He was not just fighting. He was controlling the battlefield, turning danger into advantage. One hunter, larger and more aggressive than the others, charged at Lyra from the side. Cade saw it instantly. Without hesitation, he threw a small metal rod, hitting the hunter's weapon and causing him to stumble. Cade grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her behind a rock, shielding her as bullets and energy blasts flew past. "This is insane," Lyra muttered, heart pounding. Cade gave a quick nod. "Insane works sometimes," he said. The hunters regrouped, realizing that brute force would not win this battle. They began coordinating, trying to trap Cade and Lyra in the canyon. But Cade was faster, smarter. He noticed a narrow crevice above them and shouted, "Climb up! Quick!" Lyra scrambled behind him, following instructions without hesitation. Cade moved first, scaling the rocks like he had trained for this his entire life. Lyra was amazed. Humans were not only clever, they could be astonishingly strong when needed. From above, Cade threw small charges, creating smoke and dust that confused the hunters. He had anticipated their reactions, and they walked right into his traps. Rocks fell, weapons jammed, and the hunters' formation broke apart. Lyra felt a surge of admiration. This was no longer a game or a dare. This human had saved her life multiple times, and he was still calm, thinking ahead, always one step faster than the enemy. Finally, the last of the hunters tried a desperate move, firing directly at them from a hidden ledge. Cade acted instantly. He grabbed Lyra and rolled down the slope, using his body as a shield. Bullets and blasts hit the ground around them. Sparks flew, dust clouded the canyon, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended in chaos. When the smoke cleared, Cade was slightly bruised but alive. Lyra looked at him, her violet eyes wide with shock and admiration. You risked everything to protect me," she said softly. Cade simply wiped dust from his jacket. "You asked me to protect you," he said. "I don't do things halfway." Lyra realized something important. This human didn't just fight for himself. He didn't care about danger, numbers, or even the bounty hunter's reputation. He fought for her because he had promised. It was not just skill or strength. It was loyalty, courage, and determination combined. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans were not just physically strong. They had hearts that could be as fearless as their minds. Cade's bravery was not reckless. It was deliberate, intelligent, and unwavering. They rested for a few minutes in the shadows of a rock overhang. Cade checked the area, listening carefully for any sign of pursuit. Lyra sat beside him, silent for once. She usually laughed, teased, or mocked danger. Now she simply observed, learning from him. "This human way of fighting," she said, quietly. "It's different. Not better, not worse. Just different. Amazing." Cade gave a small smile. "It works," he said. "And it works better when you trust it." Lyra nodded slowly. She had never trusted anyone like this before. Not guards, not soldiers, not advisors, but Cade, she did. And that trust felt thrilling, powerful, and terrifying all at once, as Aide. The twin suns dipped further below the horizon. The canyon grew darker. Shadows stretched long and dangerous. Cade rose, checking their path forward. "We keep moving," he said. "They'll try again. And next time, it might be harder." Lyra stood beside him, gripping his arm lightly. She felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The dare she had given for fun had turned into a real adventure. And one thing was clear. With Cade by her side, she was in human hands. Hands she now trusted more than anyone else in the galaxy. Together they stepped forward, into the darkness, ready for whatever awaited them. The moon of Tyrus 9 was quiet now, but the danger was far from over. Shadows stretched across jagged rocks as Cade and Lyra made their way through a narrow canyon. The bounty hunters had not given up. Cade knew they were tracking them, probably, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Lyra walked beside him, trying to hide the nervous energy in her steps. She had never been in such a dangerous situation. Usually her life was carefully planned and protected by countless guards. But now, with only Cade by her side, she felt exposed and strangely alive. "You're always calm," she said quietly, trying to break the tension. "How do you do it?" Cade glanced at her. "Focus, plan, move. Fear slows you down. I don't have time for it." Lyra thought about that. Aliens often let fear control them. Humans were different. Brave, yes, but also clever, steady, and patient. That was a combination she had never seen before. As they moved forward, Cade noticed a strange pattern in the rocks and dust. Small footprints, unusual markings. Someone had been there recently. He stopped and whispered, "They're close. Too close." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "We can't run forever," she said, voice shaking slightly. Cade nodded. "No, we can't. Sometimes the only way to survive is to fight smart, not just strong." He led her into a narrow cave, its entrance hidden by jagged boulders. Inside, the cave was dark and dry. Cade checked every corner carefully. He found a spot high above, a ledge that gave a good view of the canyon. "Here," he said, pointing. "We can rest, plan, and defend from above. They won't expect us." Lyra climbed with him, surprised at how agile he was. Once on the ledge, she sat down, catching her breath. "You make this look easy," she said, trying to mask her awe. Cade shook his head. "It's not easy. You just train for it. You learn how to see what others don't, and how to stay calm when everything is chaos. She studied him. His calm, focused expression hid nothing. He was human, real, and unshakable. She felt something stirring inside her. Admiration, respect, perhaps something more. Humans were unpredictable in a way that fascinated her. Hours passed as they watched and waited. The hunters searched the canyon below, unaware of their hidden position. Cade explained his plan. We don't fight all at once. We control the battlefield, make them make mistakes, use the terrain, use them against themselves. Lyra listened, learning. Each idea was clever, simple, and effective. Humans did not rely solely on weapons. They used their minds, their environment, and their courage. Suddenly, one hunter noticed movement near the cave entrance. He raised his weapon and fired. Cade reacted instantly, pushing Lyra behind a rock and returning fire with calculated precision. The hunter fell back, stunned by the unexpected counterattack. Lyra's pulse raced. You're amazing, she whispered. How do you think of everything at once? Cade smiled faintly. You get used to it. You pay attention, you predict, and you act without hesitation. Humans are messy, chaotic, but we survive because we adapt. Lyra realized this was true. She had never seen anyone fight with such intelligence and courage combined, and she had never trusted anyone like this before. The rest of the hunters regrouped and advanced carefully, now aware of the human's skill. Cade moved silently, setting traps using rocks and debris. When the hunters stepped into the traps, they tripped, fell, or were temporarily stunned. Each move was precise, controlled, and deadly. Lyra could not hide her excitement. I asked you to protect me for fun, and now it feels like I'm learning real survival, she said, her voice trembling with thrill. Cade nodded. Protection isn't a game, even if you ask it for fun. You survive because I keep thinking, planning, and acting, and you learn because you follow me. Lyra looked at him, realizing she had never trusted anyone fully before. She had laughed at the dare, expecting it to be playful and short-lived. Now she understood the depth of human commitment. Cade did not hesitate. He risked everything for her, not because it was required, not for money or reward, but because he had promised. The night grew darker. The hunters had split into smaller groups, trying to flank the ledge. Cade motioned for Lyra to stay still. He watched carefully, noting their movements, reading their strategy like an open book. One hunter climbed toward the ledge from a hidden path. Cade waited until he was close, then used a small rock to distract him. As the hunter lunged, Cade grabbed him, disarmed him, and tossed him down the slope with surprising strength. Lyra gasped. The human was not only clever, he was strong and fearless. She felt a surge of admiration, mixed with something new. Respect? Curiosity? Perhaps the beginnings of trust that went beyond survival. Cade checked the canyon again. We're not safe yet, he said. They'll try again, but we're ready, and we're together. Lyra nodded, feeling a strange sense of security she had never known. Humans, she realized, were not just fighters. They were protectors, thinkers, and leaders in ways her people rarely were. And Cade was extraordinary. As they rested on the ledge hidden in the shadows, Lyra whispered, almost to herself, This is more than a dare. You're not just protecting me. You're teaching me how to survive. Cade glanced at her, expression unreadable, but his eyes held something she could not ignore. I keep my promises, he said softly. Fun or not, that doesn't change anything. Lyra smiled faintly. Humans were strange, brave, and clever. She had asked for protection for fun, but now she understood something bigger. Cade's loyalty, intelligence, and courage were far beyond anything she had imagined. And as the twin moons rose above the jagged horizon, Lyra felt a strange warmth. The dare had changed her. The human beside her had shown her something she had never expected: real strength, real trust, and a hidden courage that could turn even the most dangerous situation into a chance to survive, and perhaps even to grow. They stayed on the ledge through the night, watching, learning, waiting. Together. And Lyra knew one thing for certain. She had never met anyone like this human before, and she would never forget him. The abandoned orbital station floated silently above Tyrus 9, dark and broken. Rusted metal walls, shattered windows, and flickering lights made it the perfect trap. Cade and Lyra entered carefully, knowing the bounty hunters were waiting. This was no longer a test. It was a fight for survival. Lyra gripped her blaster tightly, though she had never trained properly. Cade noticed but said nothing. He had taught her how to move, how to listen, and how to anticipate danger. Her role was simple: follow, stay alert, and trust him completely. Cade scanned the station. He noticed the hunters' reflections in broken glass and the faint glint of their weapons. "They think they can surround us," he whispered. "But they don't understand how humans think." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "And how do humans think?" "Fast. Clever. Dangerous," he replied with a faint smile. The first hunter appeared at the end of the corridor, aiming directly at Lyra. Cade acted instantly, grabbing her and throwing her behind a pillar. He rolled, sliding between shadows, and fired his blaster with careful precision. The hunter fell back, stunned, while the others hesitated. Lyra felt her heart race. You're amazing," she whispered. Every move he made was smart, controlled, and bold. Humans fought differently, less predictable, more dangerous, and far braver than most aliens she had seen. More hunters poured in from side corridors, trying to flank them. Cade did not panic. Instead, he led Lyra toward a large control room filled with broken machinery and crates. He used the clutter to hide, set traps, and create choke points. Every corridor, every door, every shadow worked in his favor. One hunter tried to climb onto a ledge above them, aiming to strike from above. Cade anticipated it. He kicked a crate, sending it sliding into the hunter, knocking him off balance. The human's instincts were flawless. Lyra could not keep up with his calculations, but she followed, moved, and dodged exactly as he instructed. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the station. A hunter had set a charge, hoping to crush them. Cade grabbed Lyra, diving behind a heavy console. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and debris scattered. Lyra's ears rang, but she felt oddly safe. Cade's calm focus made her believe they could survive anything. "Stay low," he shouted. "Follow my lead." They moved quickly, using ventilation shafts, broken stairs, and even emergency escape tubes. Cade's knowledge of human tactics turned the station into a maze that favored them. Every attack the hunters tried was anticipated and countered. Lyra watched, learning without thinking, her respect growing with every action. The hunters realized brute force was useless. They tried to regroup, but Cade was already 3 steps ahead. He set traps using wires, falling panels, and even loose pipes. One hunter tripped a wire and was sent sprawling into a broken control panel, unable to continue. Another ran directly into an improvised cage trap Cade had made in seconds. Lyra felt awe and excitement. "I asked for protection, for fun, and now—" She trailed off, realizing that Cade had risked his life countless times for her. Cade glanced at her. "Promises aren't games," he said quietly. "Even if you ask for fun, I keep them fully. You survive because I act." Her chest tightened. This human, who she had chosen for a simple dare, had become her protector, her guide, and perhaps something more. Humans were not just strong or clever. They were loyal, brave, and utterly unpredictable. The final group of hunters cornered them, in a large hangar bay. They had weapons, numbers, and confidence, But Cade had the environment. Broken machinery, low lighting, and scattered crates gave him cover. He motioned for Lyra to stay behind a console. "Count to 3, he whispered. She nodded, trembling. Slightly. 1, 2, 3. Cade sprang into action. Using a combination of blaster fire, quick maneuvers, and clever distractions, he disarmed 2 hunters in seconds. Lyra watched, heart pounding, as he rolled, dodged, and used the hangar's machinery against them. 1 hunter fell into an open cargo lift, another into a stack of crates. Then, the largest hunter charged at Lyra. Cade's eyes widened. He sprinted, throwing himself between Lyra and the hunter. The human grabbed the hunter's weapon and twisted it, sending the alien sprawling across the floor. He was wounded slightly, but he did not falter. Lyra gasped. You could have died." Cade shook his head, panting. "Not today, I promised." The hunters, now disoriented and frightened, tried to flee. Cade used the remaining environment to trap them, ensuring none could follow. When the last hunter tried a desperate attack from above, Cade lured him into a gravity lift trap, sending him floating helplessly until security drones, already pre-programmed, by Cade, captured him. Silence filled the hangar. Smoke drifted, lights flickered, and the echoes of the battle faded. Lyra stared at Cade, unable to find words. Finally, she whispered, "I asked you to protect me, for fun, and you risked everything." Cade, slightly bruised but unbowed, shrugged. "I told you I keep my promises. Fun or not, it doesn't matter. You survive. That's enough." Lyra looked at him, admiration shining in her eyes. Humans were strange. Humans were bold. And humans apparently never gave up. She had underestimated them before. Not anymore. The hangar now quiet, they moved toward the exit. Cade kept watch, scanning for any remaining threats. Lyra stayed close, realizing that trust in him had grown. Beyond fear or respect, it was complete. She felt safe in a way she had never known, and it was thrilling. As they stepped onto the platform and saw the stars above, Lyra laughed softly. "I asked for fun, and you turned it into an adventure, a real one." Cade gave a faint smile. "Fun is one thing, protection is another. I don't mix them." Lyra looked at him and nodded. She understood now. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and fearless. And one human, Cade, had changed her understanding of courage, loyalty, and survival forever. Above them, the orbital station creaked and groaned. Below, Tyrus IX's moons reflected the fading light. The battle was over, but the story between the alien princess and the human mercenary was only beginning. Lyra took a deep breath. "Next time, maybe I'll give you an even harder dare," she teased. Cade's eyes glinted with quiet confidence. "I'll take it seriously," he said. For the first time, Lyra realized asking for protection for fun had led her to a human who would bet his life on her, and she knew she would never forget it. The sun of Tyrus IX rose slowly, painting the rocky landscape in warm gold and pink. Cade and Lyra walked side by side across the quiet plains, far from the chaos of the orbital station. The bounty hunters were either captured or had fled, and the danger that had haunted them for days was gone. For now. Lyra glanced at Cade. She felt a mix of relief, admiration, and curiosity. He had kept his promise. He had risked everything, fought brilliantly, and guided her through danger with patience and skill. And yet, he remained calm, almost casual, as if it were normal for him to place himself in harm's way for someone else. You were incredible," Lyra said softly. "I asked for protection as a joke, and you turned it into a real adventure. You could have died so many times." Cade shrugged. "I didn't. That's what matters. You asked. I promised. That's enough for me. Lyra smiled a little shyly. Humans are strange, reckless, bold, and loyal. I never understood that before. Cade's eyes met hers, steady and clear. It's not about being reckless. It's about keeping your word, thinking fast and acting when it matters. Humans survive because we don't give up. Simple as that. Lyra nodded. She thought about everything that had happened. The traps, the fights, the tense moments in dark corridors. And she thought about how she had come to trust him completely, more than she had trusted anyone in her life. You know, she said, I think I underestimated humans. And you! She laughed softly. I thought it would be just a fun dare. I didn't realize it would be this. This? Cade asked, raising an eyebrow. This, she said, gesturing to the rocky plains, the rising sun, and the sense of freedom that stretched before them. The danger, the adventure, the trust. I feel like I've learned more in a few days with you than I ever have in my whole life. Cade smiled faintly. Good. That's what happens when you survive. Together. They walked in silence for a while, enjoying the quiet after the chaos. Lyra noticed how Cade moved. Calm, alert, yet relaxed now that the immediate danger was gone. She realized how much she admired him, not just for his strength or skill or cleverness, but for his heart. The human heart that refused to back down, that kept promises no matter the cost. After a while, Lyra spoke again. Do you always put yourself at risk for others? Cade thought for a moment. Not always, he said finally. But if I promise to protect someone, I do. Doesn't matter who. Doesn't matter why. That's how humans work sometimes. Some of us, anyway. Lyra nodded slowly, absorbing his words. She felt something shift inside her. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they had depth, loyalty, and courage she had never fully understood. And this one human, he had changed the way she saw the galaxy. They reached a cliff overlooking a small, quiet valley. Below, streams sparkled in the morning light. Birds flew low over the plains, and the wind carried the scent of fresh earth. Lyra turned to Cade, her violet eyes wide and thoughtful. You know, she said, I asked you to protect me for fun. I didn't think anyone would actually take it seriously. But you did. You risked everything. Not for glory, not for reward, just because you promised. That's incredible. Cade looked at her, calm and unshaken. It's what I do, he said simply. Lyra smiled, feeling warmth and admiration. I think I'd ask you again, she whispered, even if it was for fun. Cade chuckled softly. I'd accept, he said. Fun or serious, I keep my word. For the first time, Lyra realized that this was more than just a dare. It was a bond built on trust, courage, and the understanding that some humans would risk everything for those they cared about, even strangers. And she cared about him now, more than she had ever cared about anyone in her life. They spent the rest of the morning exploring the valley, talking quietly and sharing stories. Lyra told Cade about her homeworld, her strict life, and her longing for adventure. Cade listened, offering insights and quiet humor that made her laugh. She realized how easy it was to trust him, how natural it felt to have him by her side. By midday, the sun was high, and the valley looked peaceful. Lyra stopped at a small stream and knelt down, touching the water. Cade followed, sitting beside her. The water reflected the sky, clear and calm. You know, Lyra said softly, I never thought a dare could lead to this. I never thought I'd find someone like you. Someone brave, clever, loyal. I never thought. She trailed off, looking at him. Cade smiled faintly. You found me, he said simply. Lyra laughed quietly, a mix of relief and wonder. Yes, I did. The sun shone brightly now, warming the rocky valley. For Lyra, the days of strict rules, endless caution, and planned safety seemed far away. She had faced danger, survived, and learned the value of trust and courage. And she had found someone she could rely on completely. Cade stood, offering his hand. Lyra took it, feeling a strange mix of excitement and certainty. Together, they looked out over the valley, knowing the galaxy was vast and dangerous, but also full of adventure. "This is only the beginning," Cade said, voice steady, confident. Lyra nodded. "Yes, and next time, the dare might be even harder." He smiled faintly. "I'll take it seriously," he said. As they walked forward side by side, the sun bright above them, Lyra realized something important. Asking for protection for fun had led her to a human who would bet his life on her. And she knew, without a doubt, that she would never forget him, or the adventure that had begun with a simple, playful dare. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, wonders, and challenges. But with Cade by her side, Lyra felt ready for anything. Together, they would face whatever came next, side by side, brave, clever, and unshakable. And for Lyra, that was the greatest adventure of all.